Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me be clear from the outset. We support this motion today. Frankly, it is the least we owe the victims of the horrific abuse that was perpetrated by Jeffrey Epstein and others. The abuse that was enabled, aided and abetted by a very extensive group of arrogant, entitled and often very wealthy individuals in this country and elsewhere. It's not just the people who participated in the abuse, it's the many, many more who turned a blind eye out of greed, familiarity or deference. To my mind, they too were complicit, just as complicit, and I welcome the reckoning that is coming to them now. I doubt there is anyone in this House who is not shocked and appalled by the recent allegations. Colleagues and many civil servants have told me their own stories of their interactions with Mr. Mountbatten-Windsor, and they all betray the same pattern. A man on a constant self-aggrandising and self-enriching hustle. A rude, arrogant and entitled man who could not distinguish between the public interest, which he said he served, and his own private interest. I remember him coming to visit the Sea Cadets in Tonypandy. They were absolutely delighted and excited to meet a member of the royal family. But he insisted on coming by helicopter, unlike his mother, who came twice to the Rhondda and always came by car. He left early and he showed next to no interest in the young people. That is, of course, Mr. Speaker, not a crime, nor is arrogance, fortunately, I suppose. Of course, we knew much of this, much of what is now in the public domain, actually a very long time ago. And I say very gently, it is all very well for some of us to say, if only we had known then what we know now, but I'm afraid that with me that doesn't wash. We did actually have plenty of warning. I called on the then Prime Minister David Cameron to dispense with the services of the then Duke of York in this chamber on the 28th of February 2011 because of his close friendship with Saif Gaddafi, as has just been referred to, and the convicted Libyan gun smuggler Tariq Kaitouni. I was rebuked by Speaker Bercow then for doing so because references to members of the royal family should be very rare, very sparing and very respectful. I didn't disagree with the ruling of Mr. Speaker, nor would I ever, as you know, Mr. Speaker, disagree with the ruling from the chair. I heard that. Over the next few days... I'm taking your advice, Mr. Speaker, I'm just ignoring that. Over the next few days, back in 2011, I repeatedly called for Andrew to be sacked in the public domain on television, on radio and in newspaper articles, citing his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, the mysteriously excessive £15 million cost paid for his Sunning Hill home and many other issues besides. I'm afraid the willful blindness of far too many at that time was absolutely spectacular, and it still angers me. The then Prime Minister, the then Home Secretary and many others in government defended Andrew time and time and time again. I was repeatedly told off, both in the chamber and outside the chamber. John Humphreys, the broadcaster, actually told me on the Today programme on the 7th of March, I think honourable members will be shocked by this, that Jeffrey Epstein wasn't quite a paedophile, drawing a distinction between sexual abuse of prepubescent and other children. Dominic Lawson, writing in the Sunday Times on the 11th of March, defended Andrew and made the same distinction between Epstein's involvement with teenage girls and paedophilia, since, as he put it, none of the girls was prepubescent, although he did at least admit that both were sordid and exploitative. I gently suggest that that is the least of what we have seen. So let me be absolutely clear. All of this happened after the photograph of Andrew with his arm around Virginia Giuffre was published in the Mail on Sunday on the 27th of February 2011. It is after the allegations, not before. Well, I'll give a word there and then to the end.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm grateful to the Honourable Member for giving way, and I entirely agree with him in relation to the abhorrence of the comments that were in the media back then. But does he also agree with me that we still have a degree of that problem now, that often in the media we talk about underage girls, where actually what we're talking about is children? And does he agree with me that we should be ensuring that when we talk about Epstein's crimes, we talk about the children that were involved?
100%, and I think we should also be referring to statutory rape, because that is what it is. And statutory rape is no better than any other kind of rape. It is rape. End of story. Of course.
Grateful to the Minister for giving way, speaking very powerfully about this issue, and has a strong track record, one of the strongest track records in standing up on these types of issues. I have asked that the Government release the files concerning whatever his new name is, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, when he was a trade envoy. That request has been refused. Can I ask gently the Minister to review that decision, and to ask that all of these files, in the new spirit of openness and transparency, that those files are open for all to see?
Of course, I completely respect my honourable friend, and he's made this point several times, not only in the chamber but also to me privately. And I agree with him. That is the direction of travel that we're going in, and that's why we agree with the humble address today as it's been presented. We're not standing in the way. We will do everything we can to comply with that as fast as we possibly can.
I was struck by the words of Amanda Roberts, Virginia Giuffre's sister-in-law, after Andrew was arrested last week. She said, "This could be a stain on the royal family for the rest of our history," or, quote, "it could be a moment where they and we decide that this is the time when cultural change happens." And as a staunch supporter of His Royal Highness the King and the royal family, I believe we must help to bring about that cultural change now.
Would he give way?
Happy to give way.
I'm most grateful to the leader of the Liberal Democrats for giving way. He's making a powerful speech. I'm sure will agree that decades of deferential, frankly sycophantic treatment by Parliament and state authorities are being exposed as having enabled Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor to behave as though he were untouchable. Yep. And I'm sure he will join me in calling on the government to introduce independent oversight of those members of the royal family who undertake official duties, and require both transparency and scrutiny over anything from now on paid for by the state, because apparently they work for us.
I'm grateful for that intervention. We must build a culture of transparency and accountability. I think that is essential. And I hope we as a House will look at ending the archaic negative privilege rules Paul Flynn spoke about. Remove the bandages from our mouths. And today, free of those bandages in relation to Andrew, our motion focuses on finally getting the truth out about his role as Special Representative for Trade and Investment.
Give way?
I'll give way again.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, can I commend the right honourable member for bringing, and his party for bringing this forward? Commend him for the way that he interviewed on TV this morning. And certainly, he doesn't just speak for this House, he speaks for this nation. And we're all greatly shocked at what has taken place, but does he agree as well? King Charles, Queen Camilla, Edward, Sophie, William, Kate are members of the royal family at this time who also need our support. And does he agree that perhaps maybe now is a time to tell them that we in this House love them, that this nation loves them, and that we understand the pain that they're suffering, and our support is with those members of the royal family who are above this and above this reproach?
I'm grateful for the honourable gentleman's intervention. I think he probably speaks for the whole House. And indeed, the intention of this debate is to bring this House together. And the changes that we think are necessary would indeed protect the royal family and strengthen the monarchy, which in some places is being criticised. And I think it's important, and that's why we need these reforms. But, Mr. Speaker, if I can go back to the motion, because it focuses at the start of this at the appointment of the former Prince Andrew to this role back in 2001. We've seen the reporting that the King, then Prince of Wales, expressed his concerns about that appointment. More alarmingly, we have read that Peter Mandelson wrote to the then Prime Minister Tony Blair, as his former Trade Secretary, pushing for Andrew's appointment. One friend of Epstein lobbying for a job for another friend of Epstein, a job that might help Epstein enrich himself. So we clearly need to get to the bottom of that appointment and the role Mandelson himself played in it. And only the papers demanded by this motion will allow us to do that. We need them published as soon as possible, without delay.